If you look past all the yellow bread wrappers, you'll see what I worked on for the last few days. I canned up the last of my cucumbers. These are the last batch of sweet pickles. I have some green beans I canned, some bell peppers, and all of my Concord grapes. When I'm in the midst of canning, I don't bake bread. I usually bake all of my own bread, but since it's been so hot and I've had sometimes at the same time a pot of jam boiling, I've had the pressure canner going, the boiling water bath canner going, and it's just too much heat in the kitchen. And I don't feel like running in and outside in, 103-degree temp to go check the sun oven. It's just too hot. So I buy store-bought bread. And sometimes we end up with some heels and ends left. Not that we're adverse to eating heels. Lots of times we'll make French toast with those. But our favorite thing to do, we sometimes just save some intentionally so that I can make homemade croutons. And they are delicious. I have had people ask me to send them homemade croutons for Christmas gifts. They are really good. So much better than anything you can buy in the grocery store. And I'm going to show you how I do that. What I do is I go through all these bread wrappers, make sure all the bread is still good, that there's no mold on anything. If there is, I throw that out. And then I start stacking up the bread on my cutting board, and I cut it with a serrated knife, and I'll show you how that looks in a little bit. It's really easy to do if you just stack it up and use an electric knife, but I just didn't feel like getting all that out. So I'm going to slice up all this bread. It doesn't matter what you have. I've got whole wheat bread. I've got some whole wheat hot dog buns. We only eat whole wheat. But you can use anything. You can mix whole wheat and white bread. The only thing you can't use is you can't use any bread that has seeds, like rye bread or, well, just like I said, anything that has seeds, because you're really drying the crouton out in the oven, and the seed gets really hard, and you don't want to chomp down on that. So pretty much anything. Biscuit would be too crumbly. You can't use that. But any kind of pretty much traditional loaf bread you could use. Old French bread you could use, Italian bread. That'd be just fine. So I'm going to take all this bread out, all these ends, and I'm going to cut it up and get it in this bowl. And this bowl right here, this big bowl. I like a big bowl to toss it with my seasonings and the butter. So I'll show you how that looks when I get it all cut up. Be right back. Okay, so I just thought I'd show you a little bit what it looks like when you cut it up. Here there's 4 slices and a heel. So I just take my serrated knife and just run it down, and they'll fall over on this side over here, and that's okay. So I'm just cutting it into sticks about like that, about a 1/2 inch. I just keep going. When I get to the end of a loaf of bread, if we don't want to eat the heels, I just throw them in the freezer. And when I get a big old pile of them, then I do what I'm doing right now, and I make croutons. So I'm just going to lay those stacks on their sides and cut them again in about 1/2 inch segments. Here's another one I'll show you. See, here's a stack. And so that's all I'm doing. Just cut them up into 1/2 inch cubes like this, and toss them in your bowl. And I'm going to finish this up here, and then I'll show you what the whole bowl full looks like. All right, here I am back with all the bread cut. I think I ended up with about 20 slices of bread, and it almost filled this nice big metal bowl. Almost didn't leave myself enough room to toss it, but I'll show you how I do that. I just drizzle on my the oil and then toss it, and then drizzle a little more and toss it. You end up with some breadcrumbs here on the cutting board. I do not put those in the bowl with the croutons. I try to leave that out if I can. If you want to put that in a bag and throw it in the freezer when you need just a handful of breadcrumbs for something, you can do that, or just toss it out for the birds. But there's my bowl of croutons. I'm going to get my seasonings ready, and then I'll show you how to drizzle it on and put it on the pans and get it ready for the oven. All right, here I am back with my flavorings for my croutons. This is not an exact science. You need to put on your croutons whatever flavorings and seasonings please you most. I'll just share with you what I use. Now, in this 4-cup measuring cup, I have 1 stick of butter that's been melted, and to that I've added about a 1/2 cup of olive oil. That's a lot of bread. If I don't need all this, I'll save it, but I think I probably will. And for this, don't use expensive extra virgin olive oil. Use the regular light olive oil because you don't need that heavy olive flavor in this. I'm going to use a little bit of ground red pepper, some onion powder, some garlic powder, some Italian seasoning, some celery salt, a little bit of fresh cracked black pepper, and I've got some extra salt over here in case I don't want to use as much celery salt. I'll just kind of taste it and see how it goes. So I'll start adding my ingredients here, and I'll show you kind of how that goes. So I'm just going to do a couple of shakes of red pepper. I don't want these to be particularly hot, but I do like a little bit of that in there. Some grinds of fresh black pepper and probably about 15 grinds of that. And I do put a good bit of onion powder, so I'm going to say you probably want a teaspoon of that as well as a teaspoon of the garlic powder. Those two are the real predominant flavors. Here comes some celery. Oh, it smells wonderful already. Here comes some celery salt, probably about a half teaspoon of that, and then probably about a teaspoon of at least a teaspoon of the Italian seasoning. I love the way that tastes on the croutons. So I'm going to stir that together. Yeah, doesn't that look good? And then I'm going to begin drizzling that on my croutons. After I do that, I'm going to drizzle a little bit. I'm going to stir. I'm going to drizzle a little bit. I'm going to stir until I get them, until I get it evenly distributed, the fat and the seasonings distributed on the croutons. Then I'm going to taste them and see if they need more salt. If they do, I'm going to add a little bit of kosher salt, sprinkle it on the croutons, and then I'm going to get it on my foil line trays, and I'll show you how that looks right before it goes in the oven. Okay, here are all the croutons. They're on foil line baking sheets, ready to go into the oven. I get them as close to single layer as I can. If they stack up a little bit, it's not going to matter because I'm going to stir them intermittently. My oven has preheated to 275. I'm going to put them in and let them go probably for about 15 minutes before I check on them and stir them. I'll show you when they're all done. All right, my croutons are finished. I can't tell you how wonderful the house smells. I made this cute little lotus petal out of a dinner napkin. If you want to know how to do that, let me know. I'll make a video on it. It's kind of cute to do on a buffet table. And here are my croutons. They're a little more brown than probably what you're used to because they're made with whole wheat bread, 100% whole wheat bread. But they are delicious. They're crunchy and flavorful. One just got away. And I promise your family will love them. Don't ever get rid of stale bread. Save it up, throw it in the freezer when you get a stash of it, then make some homemade croutons. If you try them, I want you to put a comment on this video and let me know how long they last. Katzcradul here. Bye.